What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Sales Hacker webinar. You guys showed up in droves for this one. We have like close to 1,000 people registered, and I don't blame you. This one's going to be really fun. We're actually breaking down a real life prospecting sequence, and not just one of them, but like two or three of them. We're going to dive into like what's working right now in the field, what's not working, and what you guys can incorporate into your best practices and into your sequences. And we have just the man to do it, Mr. Jeff Swan from RevUp 90. Jeff, what's going on, man?
Oh, nothing much. Alex, thanks for the intro. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just really excited to be here because, sales sequences are, they're so vital to the success of a salesperson's job that we've just dedicated ourselves to helping kill that abysmal reply rate, that industry reply rate of 1%. And we're really excited to be here to help do our part to help everyone else get above that 1%.
1%. That is pretty brutal, man. It's like no other profession in the world where you invest so much time and effort into trying to get a certain outcome, and 99% of the time you can fail. Like that's pretty discouraging. And let's see if we can help some people out today with solving that issue.
For sure.
Before we do, as usual, we have a couple housekeeping items. Every webinar we do, inevitably we get like 4, 5, 6 people asking, is this recorded? And am I going to get the slides? And the answer is yes to both of those. We're going to send you the slides. We're going to send you the recording within about 24 hours after the webinar. I know we're living in this kind of like new normal where you probably have kids in the background, probably have dogs trying to get your attention. So if you got to jump off for whatever reason, you got a meeting, don't worry about it. We're going to send you all the stuff within about 24 hours. Also, we have, Jeff and I mainly Jeff, worked pretty tirelessly to put together all this content for you guys, and it's some really good stuff. But honestly, we're doing this for you guys, right? So you guys showed up. We have about, like I said, about 1,000 people joining us, which is pretty nuts. And we're doing it for you. So if you wouldn't mind, head down to the bottom of your screen right now. You'll see a chat icon. Open up the chat icon and change the to field to all panelists and attendees. That's going to let you guys talk to us, and it's going to let you guys talk to each other. Introduce yourself. Where are you joining from? What's your role? Who are you selling into? If you're struggling with any like sequence-related challenges, throw them in the chat because we're going to want to address those, right? There's also a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. If you have any burning questions you want to get off the top of your mind, like right now, you can open up the Q&A box and type them in there. Anything asked in the Q&A box, we'll actually try to answer live. So we may even try to pull you guys like up. This is not meant to like intimidate you guys, but if you guys want to get on screen and you want to ask your question live in front of everybody and get help, we can actually like pull you guys in live to have a conversation with Jeff and I. Holy smokes, look at the chat. You guys really showed up. Quick shout outs from all over. International. We got Kurt from Ohio, Paul from Digistorm, a company, not a location. Jason, Jordan, Carolyn, Shay, Kevin, the list goes on and on and on. Europe, Rose Pinta, welcome. Glad to have you here. We actually already have some questions rolling in too. Daniel, how to use email and an outbound sequence and how that's kind of changed in this new normal. Lots of BDRs, lots of sales managers. We got some sales leadership. Sweet. We got a pretty like wide, diverse group of individuals on the webinar today. I think you guys are going to find this super valuable. Again, as we're rolling, as you guys are rolling in, I still see people joining. I'm just going to kind of keep rambling for the next like minute or so until everyone's in the room before we can like dive into the content. Paul Gazdick, thank you for the question. We're going to get to that. Again, guys, for you guys just joining, this webinar is with Jeff Swan at RevUp 90. This dude has created, I don't know, Jeff, how many sales campaigns would you say you've created in your life?
I honestly can't even count, Alex. I think I'm in the thousands mark. I don't know. Sales campaigns, marketing campaigns, all different types, ABM campaigns, the works. I've done kind of like the gambit of front to back, left to right, all across. I've seen thousands and thousands and thousands of emails, reviewed them, and it's becoming a blur.
And you've kind of, what's cool is, people on the webinar probably aren't aware of like where we got these sequences. So again, you guys just joining, we're breaking down real sequences. So Jeff has been working with sales development reps in the field, breaking down cold emails, cold calls, the scripts they're using, what's working, what's not. And we're going to show you guys real examples. Jeff's going to break down what's working and what's not. We're going to show you before and after screenshots. Jeff, for those people who are interested in maybe getting their own sequences broken down, do you
Sure.
have anywhere they can go?
Yeah, if you go to our website, it's revup90.com/sequence-practice. So that sequence-practice, you'll be able to join the live event. It's a bi-weekly event you can join for free. And there's a little link on that page where it says submit your work. And then you can go there, drop your sequence, email, phone script, whatever you'd like. And get it reviewed live on the air.
And that's how we got the sequences for the ones we're reviewing today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So we have about 153 people live with us. We're looking for people. They want us to share the link. I'll type it out. Jeff, you mind slowly repeating that link for me real quick?
Sure. It's revup90.com/sequence-practice.
Practice. All right, guys. In the chat, there it is. Copy paste that. You can get your sequences broken down by Jeff for free. And if you're lucky and you include enough detail, we might even do another webinar where we get to break them down in front of everybody live. Okay, we're getting even more people joining. Lots of questions already. We see some people selling to restaurants and schools. Those two industries are obviously incredibly tough right now. So we kind of feel the struggle that you guys are going through. Hopefully we can help you out a bit here today. Jeff, what do you say we dive into it? I think the people are ready.
Want to start with a scary stat, Alex?
Let's start with maybe the most terrifying stat in all of sales development.
All right, let's do this. So if you had to guess how many sales development reps met quota in the last couple of years, well, this is pre-COVID, pre-crazy world-ending stuff. And you're looking at 83% of sales development reps missed quota. And that's according to the Revenue Collective, which I'm sure a whole bunch of you are actually already part of in your cities. So what's really, really scary about that is that this was even before, like I said, before COVID, before the world ended, before things stopped working and economies were trashing everywhere. People were having a tough time getting in front of their customer and getting a response. Now, the problem, a lot of times, it wasn't. There's things out of your control. So there's things like unrealistic quota, products being left in the dust by competitors, a slew of other excuses that you've heard from every salesperson in the world. But the bottom line is the stuff that you can control, the stuff that's in your tool shed to fix. We've done a pretty poor job of scaling broken processes. So broken messaging, ineffective messaging, robotic. Trying to focus on automating instead of making that real connection with the buyer. So what people keep forgetting is that scale is good, but you don't want to scale broken stuff. And what happens is that as you start to scale all these broken processes and messaging, customers are showing their discontent. They're showing by voting or by not voting. As Alex said in the preamble, 99% of these emails aren't getting replied to. They're not getting a response. So that means you have to buy, if you're doing prospecting lists, you have to buy 100 contacts to get one reply. Okay. You do the math. It's not cheap. It's not cheap to do. And that's just not effective enough. It's not good enough. So me and my, a couple of colleagues, we started RevUp to kind of solve for this. I've been working 15 years in the industry. Managing sales, marketing, sales development, customer success, and really focusing on high growth. And that this is our way to kind of solve that problem for people. But to kind of bring that to the masses, so we started kind of as a consulting company, but we recognized that we could only help so many people at a time. So then we opened it up to the world and said, why don't we do this live on the air through sequence practice? We already gave you the URL. You already seen that. So I'm not going to go into detail, but the point is that we're getting joined by experts from Outreach, from Salesforce, from all these different cool companies to come in and share what they do to actually get results today in today's environment. And then some of those results are even posted on the Sales Hacker community for extra discussion. So with that said, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a second and talk about how we actually break down sequences, what we actually do. But before that, I'd like to get started with a kind of like a preamble. So your pre-work. What do you do to actually assess before you start breaking down sequences? And first you start with what's your current state? So what are the benchmark performance benchmarks that you have? What are you tracking? Are you tracking open rates? Are you tracking booked meetings? Are you tracking, qualified sales opportunities? The point is that you need to look at what are you measuring. Once you set that benchmark and you say, okay, if my 1% response rate is what I'm measuring, I want to get to 5%. I want to get to 10%, 30%. That's really extremely important. And then you want to look at your marketing mix. So you want to look at, okay, what else is going on in your world that's pushing your brand, that's pushing your product, that's pushing your expertise out there? Okay, how does a sequence fit in? Is this something that you're sending after a webinar that you're hosting? Or is it something that you're sending out of the blue with no, I call it air support for marketing? You're just sending it out to your prospect and trying to snipe and get those guys in your funnel. What are you looking, how does it look when somebody's contacting you? So when you reach out to somebody and they see your first impression, are they looking at your LinkedIn profile? What do they see? Are they looking at your website? What do they see? Is there something interesting on your website that's going to draw them in and make them want to engage with your company, even when maybe your sequence doesn't work, right? And so you really need to think about all this, is that assess your whole situation and say, when I'm sending out a sales sequence, what is supporting me so that it's not just me doing all the heavy lifting, or some say pushing the boulder up the hill, right? So the really important thing here though is that, and I've seen this time and time again, people do sequences left, right, and center based on brand messaging that doesn't work. It doesn't speak to the buyer. Okay. I want to ask the panel, I want to ask everybody on here, do you feel very confidently, just say yes in the chat if you think your brand is crystal clear and your customers just get it, they dig their UVP?
No, yes, no, no.
Yeah.
No, 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 no.
Oh,
Oh man, nope, 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 nope.
Okay, wish I could say maybe. I like that. Thanks, Kevin. All right, so this doesn't surprise me at all.
Thank God, not in marketing, says Graham.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. So this is a real challenge. If you're trying to scale, again, a brand message that doesn't work, it doesn't connect with your buyer, you're kind of on your own. You have to find it your way. So what I do encourage is that when you're looking at your sales sequences, I would encourage you to look with marketing, look with your manager, look with some other colleagues in the organization, and really think critically of like, if I create the best sequence in the world, but I'm not supported by my organization, where's it going to go? Right? And again, I don't want you focusing on things you can't control. That's the worst advice ever. Don't think I'm telling you that. It's more about collaborating with the people in your organization to craft messaging and craft a sequence campaign that's going to fit with what you're doing. Okay. And then give that feedback loop, because I've held the marketing hat. If your sales reps are out there not giving you feedback, you don't know how to fix that messaging. You don't know how to write that ship. So it's on you to give that feedback to your team and make sure that it works for you and gets those results. So Alex, I think I beat that dead horse. Sorry.
No, you mentioned actually like a ton of good points there, like 3 or 4 really, really good points. I want to just reiterate them and maybe ask a couple follow-up questions that I'm curious about, and I'm sure some other people are curious about. You mentioned you really need to define at the start what KPI you're optimizing for, right? Within your sequences. Like, why are you sending the emails, right? It's amazing how many people can't answer that question clearly and decisively. Like, are you looking for opens, replies, positive replies, meetings booked, demos booked, close one revenue? Like, there's so many things you could be optimizing for and tracking. And, one of the keys that I think we're going to get into when you're creating sequences is constantly testing. You have to constantly be iterating on your messaging and the channels that you're using, et cetera, et cetera. And you can't test anything if you don't have a singular KPI that you're using to compare different variables, right? What would you say, Jeff? What have you seen in your experience? I mean, does it depend on the company? Does it depend on the product you're selling? Like, what KPI should people be using? Is it just replies? Is it book meetings?
Yeah. So this is a very interesting. So I've always found testing anything, marketing, sales, whatever, based on the thing that's going to move the needle the most is vital. So the majority of teams that I've worked in has been, multi-stage, long cycle sales, right? In B2B. So a lot of times the best thing to optimize any campaign, whether it's sales or marketing on, is actual qualified sales opportunities. Okay. I'll give you an example. Like I did a pay-per-click campaign once. It was a multi-stage over months, and so many people optimized for clicks, right?
Yeah.
We optimized for sales qualified opportunities. And guess what happened? The campaigns that were doing excellent at clicks and clicks were abysmal at qualified sales opportunities. And then the ones that performed really poorly on clicks and whatever else, they went through all the way to qualified. So why am I bringing the marketing into the mix here is because I believe in alignment, in 100% alignment from team to team. And when you're looking at revenue, if you want to optimize for a specific metric, do what makes sense for the business, not what just makes sense for you. And then you will be better at your job. You'll get promoted faster. You'll end up running a company like me, and eventually, and you'll be kicking ass all over the place.
Yeah, man, that's gold. So sales qualified opportunities. Like if you can get there and you can optimize your sequences for SQOs, go that route.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. All right, I have a few more questions, but I'll keep them. I have a feeling we're gonna get into it. So let's keep it rolling.
All right. Well, there is one question that I am going to answer right now because it's directly related to what I'm talking about here.
Okay.
So the next thing, you want to look at your tools. So Paul Gatzik asks, what are the best sales tools you would like to utilize? So I like to use Outreach myself for outbound sequences. I use Salesforce for CRM, and I do a little bit of HubSpot for marketing. And so I do kind of a mix of tools, but the most important thing is that, does your tool actually make you efficient? So does it save you time, or does it take time away from you, right? Are you spending a lot more time doing admin and doing things for your manager, or are you doing things that will help you accelerate your sale and give you more time to sell on the sales floor? So that's a number one thing. Another thing is the quality. So quality content. Do you have content either created by yourself or created by your marketing team that can help drive an effective sales sequence, right? That's really important, because if you're trying to go out there and you're telling what I call a breadcrumb story through a sales sequence, you want to have meaningful and value-driven ways to actually work, to actually tell that story, right? Another thing is, does everybody have the ability? So are the reps trained? Is there enough training to actually run sequences properly, or no? And that's really important.
If we can, let's double click into that, using content in your sequences. I think that's like you mentioned, uber important, right? We get questions all the time of like, how can I add value on like my first touch, my second touch, my third touch, and my follow-ups? How can I not just be, drowning in the sea of sameness with the first touch cold emails that every other sales rep is sending out? Like, hey, here's what I do. Can I have 15 minutes of your time? Like, those suck. That's why you're getting a 1% response rate. If you use content that's valuable and relevant to whatever persona you're selling to, and like your first touch is all about just like providing value with no ask. Like, you don't even need a CTA in your first email. You can have one if you want to. You can test it. You can also just provide value for free. Like, hey, some kind of personalized snippet. I noticed you're doing X, Y, and Z. We just produced this really interesting piece of content that I think would be really valuable because of X. Like, check it out. Like, would you be open after you check it out if we have a brief conversation about how maybe we can help you further? Like,
no, I like that, Alex. Thank you. You actually touched on something that I didn't mention, and it's really important. Is that I had a really good mentor one time. We were talking about getting investors, and he was telling me that if your pitch is good enough, if it speaks to the problem effectively enough, they're going to find you. They're going to understand. You don't have to ask for money to get the money, right? Same thing with your email sequences. You don't necessarily have to ask for 15 minutes of your time in order to get 15 minutes of their time. Because if you're compelling enough, you're interesting enough, you're creative enough, and you provoke a thoughtful response, then you're going to have a sales conversation that leads to, let's take 15 minutes, get on a call.
Yep. Graham has a really interesting, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Graham? I'm going to say Graham. The problem is that most SDRs can't write a proper sequence. It requires a mixture of sales, marketing, and writing. Do you agree with that, Jeff? Where do you see most salespeople getting the content for their sequences, writing the copy?
This is the thing, is that the same reason why SDR exists as a role is because really smart people, smarter than me, recognize that there's certain parts of a salesperson's job that are better left to certain types of personalities and certain skill sets. So, hey, some SDRs are freaking amazing. I've seen some killer sequences done by SDRs. Others can't write worth a damn. I'm sorry. I've seen marketers like me. I'm not the best at messaging. Like I'm good at understanding systems, or I haven't been. I'm a lot better than I used to be. But there's other people that are like really good at closing deals. So the point that I like to make with this is that the person or the people who write your sequences should be really, really good at it. They should be amazing, and they should be good at not writing, but getting results. This is the key, is that there's lots of copywriters out there, lots and lots of copywriters out there that don't know how to book a meeting, don't know how to close a sale. Okay. But what you want to look for is people who are active in the field, that know how to sell and go. Bob says he's surprised he let SDRs write their own scripts. No, this is the thing, Bob, and to everybody here, you as the leader of your organization need to know who writes good scripts, who knows how to get the responses. And when you look at that, if I'm the sales rep, if I'm the sales development rep, and I know I'm not good at messaging, I need to go in that organization and find out who can help me write these sequences. If it's not mandated for me already that you have to use whatever marketing put up or whatever sales put up, right? Because that happens.
Yep.
But again, if it's in your control and you have the ability to do so, then go to the person in the organization who writes great sequences, who gets the results, and write one with them. And if they're not willing to share, well, that's not cool.
That is not cool. It goes right back up to the top too, what we mentioned at the very beginning of you need to define the KPI that you're optimizing for. If you don't have that nailed down, then you're not going to know what's working, right? If you don't know how many sales qualified opportunities version A of your script is generating versus version B, across all your reps, you're going to be lost. You're driving blindfolded. It's just not going to work.
100%. So I think we'll take a little bit of a divergence here. Why don't we go through our first sequence breakdown?
Let's do it.
Sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right. Let's do it. I'm going to share screen 3.
So while we're getting the screen sharing up and running, we got another relevant question from Jessica. She's the marketing coordinator. We have a marketer on the line, a fellow marketer. Way to go, Jessica. She's a marketing coordinator on her team and typically works with specific reps to tailor their messaging into their specific tone or style. Would you instead suggest perfecting a perfect sequence that they use company-wide? Or I guess maybe, and we may be getting into this, and if we are, let's just hold off. I
like that question. I really like, not to the term personalization where you use a first name field, whatever else. I really like personalization and personalizing messaging. I really like for a rep to have their personality show in their emails, in their sales calls. The worst thing you can do is take someone else's script. Let's say Alex creates this perfect sales script for me, and I pop it on the phone and I'm like, hey, Mr. Customer, blah, 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 script. And it just comes across as robotic, not authentic, and it's not in my voice. You guys can see me, the way I talk, it's me. I'm not Alex, right? It's very different. So I really like that tone of voice. I like adjusting things to the person. And I like that they've, Jessica, I like that your company has given you the opportunity to work with salespeople to do that, because I think it's really important. That said, yeah, there are best practices you can do as an organization that you can write kind of like a master sequence that allows room for salespeople to bring in their own personality and tone of voice. I do appreciate that.
Yeah. So it sounds like you can certainly create sequences that are used across reps within your company, but just make sure that they're personalizing them and not just coming off as robotic or impersonal. They're personalizing them to fit their personal tonality and style and how they talk. Yeah.
100%.
We're getting a bunch of really great comments here. I'm going to save them. Jordan, Andrew, thank you for those comments. We're going to break down the sequence real quick. This may answer some of your questions, and if it doesn't, I'll be sure to loop them back in. Yeah.
So, I'll say another thing before we get started, and just kind of tell you guys how we approach a sequence breakdown, what we think in our mind and what we're looking for before we actually get into it. So the first thing is the C test. If anybody who's watched the sequence practice number 1, they heard Playmaker Max say that when you're looking at an email, typically people look at the first line, the last line, and then if both of those check off, then they'll actually read the body of the email. So this is kind of the thing that we do as well. Is it clear? Is there an offer? Is it clear? Do I see a CTA? Do I understand what it's about? Am I looking at this is about me, or is it about the seller and their awesome product and how cool they are and all this other stuff? Or are they talking about problems that I have? And the number one thing, and we'll get into this when we talk about the common mistakes, but is it a terrifying email? So I started a BDR team, I guess, in a company that's never seen it before. They had 300 salespeople, no BDRs. And so ours was the first team in lowly North America office, really small. And we were kind of teaching people how to think BDR. So how to think outbound. And so what I noticed is when I looked at the sales team, how they actually did outreach, the place was quiet. There were no calls whatsoever. They were focusing entirely on emails, and they were literally spending 45 minutes to an hour per email for a cold outreach. And they were sending one email, not a sequence. And every single email was extremely long. They told their whole story in one email. So, and one of the people who ended up joining me for the BDR team, she ended up saying that, yeah, one prospect actually said the direct words to her, "This is a terrifying email." So her email scared the living crap out of them. Okay. Because it was terrifying. There was way too much to it. So the purpose is, and I'm going ahead of myself, but one of the best practices here is be brief, right? People aren't going to read a long email.
Those blocks of text, man, those are terrifying. They really are. When you get an email and it's like 3 paragraphs, that's like instant archive.
Totally.
I'm not 100%. Reading that. Yeah.
So again, when I look at a message, is it clear? Is it short? Is it about me? Those are the types of things that I look at. Now, another thing, this doesn't seem as important to some people. I don't really know why, but grammar, punctuation, proper English. These are things that are really important. I was talking to Alex about my shirt today, leading up to this. And I was saying how in my website, you'll see in a video, I'm wearing a V-neck t-shirt. This V-neck t-shirt was very poorly received by some of my customers. They said, "Why aren't you wearing a collar?" So today I decided to wear a collar, just to, appease them. But why is that important? It's because there are subsections of your market, whether your whole market is like engineers that wear hoodies all day, or it's a mix of this and that, whatever. Somebody in your market is going to care about punctuality and grammar and professionalism. And somebody in there is going to think very poorly of you if they don't think you can speak English properly, or if you can't communicate with them properly, and they're going to assign that you might not be as professional as they'd like to see. Okay. So what I recommend is that really look at it. Are you using run-on sentences? Are you punctuating properly? Are you missing a question mark when you're asking a question? These are little minor things that trip off certain people extremely to the extreme. A final thing is when you look at the content is what are you actually saying? Why are you saying that specific thing? If you're coming across as just, hey, sell, I'm trying to sell you, it's going to come out, right? So you have to say, like, why are you reaching out to this person? Is it relevant? Is it personal? These are the types of things that you need to know. And if you do your pre-call research, if you understand your customer, then you're able to do relevant messaging that is personal. And it's not personalized. It's not a field. It's about personal. Is it something that they're going to care about, right? And are you asking for too much? A lot of people seem to be getting to the point where even asking for a call, even a 15-minute call is becoming a big ask for people, So really think critically about that. What are your customers going to respond to? And Alex mentioned before, test, right? So with that said, without further ado, let's get into the first sequence.
Let's do it.
Thanks everybody for your patience.
Lots of good engagement in the chat too. Guys, keep it coming. I love that you guys are like in it, engaging with each other and answering each other's questions. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, 100%.
Keep it up.
So this first sequence, Sierra, as you'll learn, she's our champion of champions. She was already knocking it out of the park. She's getting 84, 86% open rates and reply rates on everything. This girl knows how to get responses from sales. And yet she was still humble enough to want to get expert review on her sequences by joining sequence practice number 1, which is awesome. So the first thing, again, what we're looking at is say in the chat, from what I just said before joining this, what is the first thing I'm going to notice about this message?
Guys, this is a real email. This is Sierra. Jeff, remind me of the company she works for.
Career Minds.
Career Minds. She's an SDR at Career Minds. This is a real email she was sending out in her prospecting sequences. Getting lots of long email, way too long, personalized, nice, no bullets, too many words. I see the title and name. Yikes from Blair.
So let's point out, I mean, the first thing I noticed is it's too long, right? It's terrifying. There's a couple awkward transitions, one where it should be a period, it's a comma, like that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I also noticed that, you can tell that Sierra does her research, right? When you're looking at this, message, you can see right off the hop, there's something completely relevant to the person, right? That's really important. She knows how to connect her product. So she's not just saying random stuff like, hey, I know you like horses or skiing or whatever else. She's speaking to something specific about her product and how it helps, right? And so this is really vital. And you'll see in a video shortly that Sierra really cares about personalization. So we did notice a couple things. What you look here, somebody says title and name. Yeah, so Sierra first talks about the actual company. She's speaking to the company, but she's also talking about what they've done recently and why that's important, and then goes into a story about tying it to her specific solution. Sierra knows from insights that this particular company is interested in furloughs, mergers and acquisitions. So she's speaking to that specifically in here, right? She's calling it out. She's even name dropping one of their accounts. Now, let's see what this, so you see, even Graham says the content's quite good. It's just too long, right? But we thought this was a good email that with some tweaks could be a lot better. And Sierra agreed. So let's go to the second one. Now, again, what do you think the first thing I noticed when I saw this email? Sorry, the email's on the second part. Join in the comments.
The email starts at, hi, Maddie.
Yeah.
Hi, Maddie. I hope your week is ending well. Talking too much about yourself. It's about the company, the seller. I. Focused on I rather than you. You guys are smart.
Yeah, and I'll give you guys a little trick that I do when actually writing sequences is that do it in Word or a Google Sheets or something or Google Doc, and then go to Control F or Command F if you're a Mac, and just search for I, and just see how many times it pops up. Okay, and just to make sure it doesn't show up in like in and other things, do space I space. See how many times you mention I. Okay. Because this is the thing, is that the majority of the emails that I see from salespeople, it's all about me, I, us, we. Okay, it's not about us. It's about the customer. It's about them, their problem, their situation, their experience, and what they can do to fix their problem, right? So this is the first thing that I noticed. Again, it was a really well-timed, it was a good strategy. She's using kind of the old school cold call 2.0 strategy. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. It's basically where you're trying to get a response from somebody to get a referral to somebody else, right? And a lot of times the referral ends up being the person you're trying to get to anyway, or the referrer. So she uses this, actually gets some pretty good responses. And what I really like about what Sierra does is that she calls the people right away. So she doesn't wait to make that call. She makes the call right away. She gets the referral, makes a call. So it's really exciting there. So that's pretty much where Sierra was with this sequence. I'd like to take some time now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and ask and play a video now of what Sierra got out of all of this.
Yeah, so this is actually Sierra joining us. She couldn't join us live, but she recorded a video for you guys. Jeff, can you see the video?
I can. Yeah.
Hi guys. My name is Sierra Bedleon. I am an SDR with Career Minds, and I was a part of the sequence practicing round 1, and I was champion of champions. So thank you guys for selecting my work to be reviewed. I appreciated the feedback and just wanted to share how I applied that feedback and the results. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so you can see as I'm talking along. So this is one of my emails that we reviewed in sequence practicing round 1. I really focus on personalization and tying that into relevancy for the people that I'm reaching out to. I'm a very self-aware person, and I know that my personalization can be on point, but I do need to shorten it. And that was some of the feedback that I had received, which I really appreciated. They gave me some ideas of how to keep my personalization at the beginning, this maybe like in the first paragraph, and then kind of cut it off and get into the point of, do you have a few minutes to chat? Also being very direct when you ask for time to meet, rather than saying, do you have a quick 5-10 minutes to chat sometime this week? Say, do you have 10 minutes to chat tomorrow at 12 p.m.? Let me know if that works for you. So I've been being more direct with how I ask for time. So that's how I applied the feedback there. And then also I did my follow-up email by using a sequence that actually my team and we use quite often. So with my follow-up, rather than being more personalized, I used a template that was more short and a little bit more brief, but tied it to the relevancy of what this particular individual was looking at. I know from intel that they were looking into furloughs and layoffs and mergers and acquisitions. So what I did is I took that feedback that I received, shortened it, and said, hi Heidi, just checking in to see how you're doing. We all know the pressure has been on HR the past couple of weeks. Is there anything I can do to support you? We have a ton of information on furloughs and virtual work, but if you're looking for something specific, just let me know and I'll search through our resources and get it to you ASAP. So I gave her a link here to our blog that had some information that I thought would be helpful because of the intel that I received. So that's kind of how I took my feedback and applied it to get results. That email was opened approximately 11 times. So although I have not had the chance to connect with that individual, I know that I have caught her interest. She actually became a hot lead, and she did click into the blog and read some of the information, spent about 10 minutes on our site. So I know that it's working. It's going to take some time and touches to get in touch with that individual. But I just wanted to kind of share, my experience. And here, let me stop sharing the screen. With the sequence practicing from round 1 and how I took that feedback and applied it. I really want to thank you guys again for selecting me. I wish I could be on the podcast. I did just have a baby and I have a doctor's appointment, so I cannot join. But I'm looking forward to more practice and, more feedback. It's all constructive, guys, and I really appreciated everything that was given to me. And, it actually helped. I got that email opened 11 times. That's huge. It means, I'm catching the client's interest. So, and then just one more thing I want to share about phone calls. We went over one of my scripts where I actually asked for, a referral, saying, are you the appropriate contact? If you're not, can you refer me to the appropriate person? The feedback I was given during sequence practicing was, when you get that contact, reach out to them directly on the phone and kind of say, hey, you know what? I was given your information by so-and-so, and they said you'd be, might be interested in chatting about our outplacement at Career Minds, and making it sound like you really know them already. Like you feel like because you've got that connection from the person who referred you, you know them already. Just having a casual conversation, not making it, so let me tell you all about what outplacement is, but really making it like a personal connection. And I was able to do that. And we actually had, right before I went on maternity leave, one of the people that I had gotten that referral, he is actually now moving forward and has become a client of ours at Hershey Entertainment. So I'm really excited that, making that personal connection worked. And with that individual, we actually chatted on the phone for about 20 minutes. So, we need to keep the personalization there. And the feedback I received was, when you get that referral, make it seem like you already know them.
Oh, Alex, you're muted.
Oh, I'm muted. That is golden. She took the feedback from our sequence breakdown and used it to actually turn this lead, which sounds like a pretty high quality account, into a hot lead, and now they have a conversation rolling. Sounds like she actually generated an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty amazing. I think there's a few takeaways actually. Maybe we should quickly break down before and after, right? So our sequences before, they were long, they were blocky, they were personalized, but they were terrifying, as you know, going to your points. What other things, let's just break it down real quick. What other things did she change before and after that led to her generating this SQO?
Well, she tightened it up. I mean, she cleaned it up. She focused on the punctuation. She focused on really getting to the point faster. So getting the point of what she's doing. And I mean, that's just a happenstance of making the email actually shorter, right? If you actually look at the second email, she mentioned that was just a template that was created that other people in Career Minds use. But what she did with it though is she made it actually relevant to the person that she was working with, right? So she knew from insights that she got through her tools that this particular person was actually looking at stuff on that particular topic. So then she was able to take a templated email, turn it into something relevant, not even personalized actually, and relevant, and actually get some results from it. She mentioned that email was opened 11 times.
Yeah, it brings us back to another point that we brought up at the very beginning of our conversation, which is the importance of having good content. You notice that we're getting some questions in the chat of like, what's your opinion on like using links in your emails? Sometimes they're picked up by spam filters. Is it better to attach things? Do you have any opinions quickly on that? I mean, attachments are fine. Links are fine, right? As long as your emails are like relevant and valuable and not spammy.
That's the key, right? Is that attachments are harder to get through spam filters. They just are, especially if people don't know who you are. Links are hard to get through some spam filters. I would say that if you have something relevant that people need to see, send the link. If you're having deliverability problems, then make adjustments, right? Yeah. Adjust what you're trying to do. But the fact of the matter is that the answer to this question is that favorite thing everybody loves to hear is it depends. It depends on the results of your test. It depends on what your audience will respond to, okay? And I could tell you what I use, but it's not going to be relevant to what you use. If you're going after the exact same audience than me and you're competing with me, sure, might be relevant. But the fact of the matter is that you need to know your customer, you need to know what they'll respond to, and you need to know what your ESPs, or email service providers, are going to actually allow to get in without blocking you and saying, nope, no more emails from this guy.
Yep. We're also, Jeff, getting a lot of questions on length of sequences, right? Mm-hmm. How many touch points do you include? What mediums do you use? Is it all calls? Is it email? Is it social touches? Is it a mix? I know this probably depends on your organization and the product that you're selling and how much it costs, the average contract value. But just like generally, is there like a general blanket best practice to like number of touch points in a sequence?
Yeah, that's a great question, Alex. Thank you. I typically like to do sequences where the email portion is about 4 to 7 touches. Anything less than that, you're not really telling a whole story. You're trying to pack more into those 3 emails or 2 emails or 1. Every touch that you make increases the likelihood of getting a response from that person until it reaches that breaking point where now you're just spamming, you're sending too much.
Yeah.
I heard from a really good mentor back in a few years back. He said what he believes with SDR teams is that you annoy people into talking to you. and it kind of hit me. It was very counterintuitive because you don't want to annoy your prospect. But the fact of the matter is you need to do enough to get attention. And when you look at, your boss's inbox, your inbox, and you see hundreds of emails every Monday when you start your work week, you recognize that to get attention and you have to do a lot. So that speaks to the other channels now. The other part of your question, Alex, is that when you're looking at it, email is not enough. Social media is not enough. Phone calls are not enough. You have to find the combination of the channels that your prospects will actually respond to and try that mix, test the different mix to see what is the best. But I can tell you the one thing that people hate is to cold call. Most people hate cold calling. So you never go wrong by picking up the phone and making that call. And even if it's somebody who doesn't typically pick up the phone, they watch their call display and just block everybody, whatever else, that person is going to actually pay attention to what you're saying because they're not used to it. It's new. If you're good at it, you have some skills. I've seen some killer cold callers. If you can hone your skills there, that is one area you're going to get so much more results than just sending emails alone.
Blair Carey, perfectly timed comment, 98% of all of our meetings are booked by cold phone outreach. Boom.
I want to high five you, Blair. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah, I love it.
Jeremy Otto with a fantastic question around subject lines. Any recommendations, do's, don'ts, any thoughts? I know we have a few other sequence examples, and I think we do make a point to break down their subject lines. Maybe it's worth, what do you think, Jeff, diving into those?
Yeah, well, let me just see. So I don't have much to share in like visuals to speak to, but I mean, there's lots of different opinions on subject lines. Now, back when I was sending, 1 million emails a day with email marketing, if I changed one specific word, I could make my company an extra $200,000 in a day. So subject lines absolutely matter. It is helpful to be personalized. It is helpful to have like name in the subject line if you can make it seem authentic. But again, these are the types of anything that works in subject lines. It could work today and turn people off tomorrow because it depends on who's using it. So I don't like to really give specific best practices around that because I don't want the entire sales hacker community to be going out and trying this one thing and then it just like destroying the tactic, right? Yep. What I do recommend is that try personalization, try adding name, test it against not having a name. And I would do subject lines are the absolute easiest thing to test, and the best things to test is just do A/B test on just the subject line. Same body, same everything, just test the subject. It is the easiest test you can do to get the most results.
I think that's actually a really interesting point that isn't brought up enough when people are talking about sequences and sequence best practices, having to do with testing, right? Like most salespeople didn't come up in a marketing background. They don't know the proper way to like structure an A/B test. So if you're one of those like full cycle reps, you're an SDR with not much like management helping you write your scripts, and you're wondering like, how do I actually like figure out what's going to work? How do I test? You're probably going to need a tool. You could use HubSpot. You could use Outreach. You could use SalesLoft. Don't use SalesLoft. Use Outreach. But whatever tool you use, it doesn't matter. You can be completely technology agnostic. As long as you have a good testing process. And what Jeff just said, which is isolating a variable, that's key. Like if you create a wildly different, you have your control version of an email, and then you create 3 different emails to test against it, and they're all wildly different, you're going to get wildly different results, but you're not going to know why. You're going to have no idea, right? But if you isolate, right, same body copy, same body copy, same body copy, different subject line, different subject line, different subject line, you can then isolate that one variable being subject line. You could do the same thing with your intro sentence, the hook that you use. You could do the same thing with your call to action. Are you wanting them to go check out relevant resources like Sierra did? Are you wanting them to go book 10 minutes via a Calendly link? Are you wanting them to pick a time from a list of options that you provide? Are you free this Friday for 10 minutes? Like, you want to isolate the variable that you're testing. Is the main point of that big tangent.
That's awesome. No, thank you. So we've got about 10 minutes. So I actually want to address this. There's a question on the chat of, can you talk more about the breadcrumb story through sequences? Because I don't actually have that in the content for this. So I'm going to mention it. My idea about this, and I just frame it in breadcrumbs, but my concept around sequences is that, before sequences even existed, before marketing automation existed and nurtures, people would have to get everything out in one message. So they'd have, big full page ads in the newspaper. They'd have long advertorials. They do send really long sales emails. And what would have to happen is that you would need to hook the person so quickly with the lead. That's the first line of the message. Okay. You'd have to hook them so well that they want to read your storybook, right? People on email do not have the time or the interest. Twitter has destroyed any point of length. You want to be brief, you want to be sharp to the point. And when you're looking at it, if you can tell a story through breadcrumbs, you can tell one bit of the story here, then one bit of the story there, then one bit, then one bit, and just focus on one thing per email, not a whole bunch of things, not leaving a bunch of links and articles and points and whatever else, but just one part of the story. And the way that I look at it is that when you're looking at your story, how many touches does it take to tell your story effectively enough to tell your prospect, to get your prospect to want to act? Okay. If it takes 3 emails to tell your whole story in a singular pointed email, great. You don't need any more. If it takes you 12 touches, email, social, phone call, whatever, to tell your story effectively, take 12 touches, right? And then again, test to make sure you're not doing too much. But this is why I say it's breadcrumbs. If you think about it, you leave the breadcrumbs. It's leading you through the forest to your way home. That's the whole point.
Love that. Yeah, spreading out your story. Don't send a terrifying email. That's a huge block of text with your entire story condensed into one email. Yeah. Spread it out. We're getting some interesting comments. I know, Jeff, we actually have a whole lot of content left to cover with only 9 minutes.
Okay.
But we can take this whichever way you want to. I mean, like if you want to tackle audience questions and engage with the audience, or if you want to go into maybe we should ask audience. Do you guys want to have a live Q&A, or do you guys want to go through quickly, sequence best practices and sequence like here's everything you really don't want to do? Those are your 2 options. Q&A, best practices, live Q&A. Go through the content, best practices, best practices, best practices, best practices. It is. Boom.
All right. We heard you. It's on. Okay. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. Let's, so 5 common mistakes that you want to avoid. We've mentioned it. We've mentioned pretty much each of these throughout our conversation, but here they are in writing. So number 1, be brief. The too long emails scare the crap out of your prospects. Robotic, you've seen it, you can tell. Clearly automated. If it seems clearly automated, it is. Okay. Do not do that. Make sure that it looks like it's coming from you. And to the point earlier about, does it have to be in your voice? Yeah, it should be in your voice. Make sure it sounds like you. If it's all about the seller, so if it's about me, how awesome I am and all my case studies and all my years of experience and all this other stuff, people don't want to hear that. They want to hear about themselves. If you're going to hook them, not promote yourself. You're heavier on the jargon. So we didn't really go through this very much today, but there are salespeople who are extremely guilty of laying on the jargon thick. They're like, well, hey, I'll sell to engineers. I sell to salespeople. They know these acronyms. Don't assume. There are people out there that are in sales for their entire career and don't know what a freaking SQL is. Okay. Like, don't assume that they know what that is, right? Solutions focused. Okay. So again, it's all about my product. It's all about what we can do. So yeah, this is the benefit of this product you don't know existed or you don't know exists. I'll tell you all about why everybody loves this product you don't care about, right? These are really, really common mistakes we see all over the place.
Totally, man. I say we dive into the best practices too. So here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to focus on yourself, your company, your product, the features of your product. You don't want to use super heavy jargon. You don't want to be a robot. Here's what you do want to do.
So yeah, let's talk about what you do want to do now. So these are just 10. Now I have a laundry list of best practices that I collect every time I do a sequence review. I add a new one or I refine it, whatever. But these are the top 10 that we used in the last 2 sequence practice reviews. Number 1 is use relevancy. So again, there's a huge debate going on right now is personalization versus relevancy. I think there's a sales hacker webinar coming up in a couple of days on that exact topic. And so it's all about relevancy, and you guys need to learn what the difference is between personalization and relevancy. Figure that out. You can go pretty far. Be creative. Again, we're competing for attention with a lot of really excellent salespeople and marketers and family. I mean, you guys are lucky you didn't see it yet, but usually my daughter will come here and bug me in the middle of a webinar. So you haven't seen it today because I locked the door. But being creative, you got to be creative and get attention from people. Use your customer's language. So be crystal clear. Like, do not speak in a way that suits you. If you're a tech company that's selling to industrial, don't talk like a tech company. Talk like an industrial person. Okay. Again, think like an advertiser. So it's kind of like your be creative, but a little bit more is get attention. So advertisers have less than a split second to get your attention. They have one crack at it while you're looking at a blog about something else, and they have a an ad has to pop up, get your attention, and get you listening. Think like that. That's how much time you have now when you're emailing, when you're phone calling. Be brief. We have beat this dead horse. Be brief. Make the customer the star. So it's all about your customer and what problems they have and how you solve them for them. Get to the point fast. Now, I've been guilty of not doing this on this webinar, but hey, get to the point fast. Okay. Get to the point in your emails and do it. Alex and I have talked about this a lot, is test everything. Subject lines, links versus attachments versus nothing, a call ask versus a what did you think about this topic, right? Test these things and do A/B testing. I don't recommend doing anything more than just A/B. It's really hard and it requires a lot of really cool tools and a lot of knowledge to do multivariate testing. Don't get into it. Just test A/B, one variable at a time. Keep it simple. Use natural human language. So you'll see the next slide, we say at RevUp, we scale human. What that means is scaling human language, not robotic, not salesy, but actually how you would speak to a friend, your family, a colleague. Speak like you're speaking to a person that you know and care about. Okay, that's the key. And then, of course, interrupt the norm. People are used to seeing. Andrew Newborn said this on last sequence practice. He's from Outreach. He said that be a red dot in a sea of blue dots, right? Stand out, right? Interrupt patterns. Make it so that when everybody's looking at, you raise a big round of funds and everybody's saying, congrats on the raise, say something like, what are you going to do with that money? What are you going to do with that money? How are you spending this, right? Like Lamborghini or Ferrari, right? Like just do something that interrupts the pattern that people are seeing in their inbox, right? Do something different.
And that's awesome. Yeah. Best practices. It sounds like, in order to be different, this is what Josh Braun says, you don't want to be a vanilla scoop in a sea of vanilla scoops, right? You want to be the chocolate scoop. And in order to do that, it sounds like you need to be creative. Use your customer's language. You need to interrupt their pattern. And the only way to do that is to know your customer really, really well and know the problems that you're facing and how those relate back to your solution, right? And
that's a good point, Alex. And because we only have 2 minutes, I'm going to jump right from that into the framework that we use to write killer sequences. Okay. There we go. Okay. So what we use at RevUp to actually create quota smashing sequences is, I call it CAMOS, 5 letters that you need to know. CAMOS. First 40% of this framework is knowing your customer. So it's knowing what questions they have, what is happening in their world, what changes are going on in their organization. Then it's understand what their buying process is. The next stage is aligning your sales process to the buying process, okay, to the buyer journey. It's not just your sequence either. I'm talking your sales process, your overarching sales process that you work with at your company, and your sequences. Make sure that what you do aligns with what they need, okay? Number 3, now this is the part that gets all of the attention, is writing thoughtful, thought-provoking, and relevant and human messaging, okay? That 4th one, we've talked about it a ton today, is test, measure, and optimize. So when we set that benchmark we discussed earlier in the webinar, whatever that is, let's optimize to get that benchmark going higher and higher and higher, and do that through testing. And I typically recommend starting with a smaller audience. And then once you have some frame of success, then you scale. So whatever you have that works, scale that. Unleash it on your prospect list and go.
Like avoid you burning through your precious lists, right? You're not going to burn through your precious list with a sequence that shouldn't be scaled.
100%. So with that said, we want to hear from you. So this is the last bit I'm going to say today, is we really want to hear from you. Want to see what you guys do for sequences and see if we can help you bump that response rate up just a little bit, maybe 1, 2, 5, 10%.
And maybe get your sequence broken down live. So if you guys liked the structure and you want to, have your own messaging revealed, whether that be a call script, a social touch, a cold email, whatever. You can do that right here, and you may even get on one of these webinars. And it's free. Like, there's not much of a better deal right now.
Yeah, not asking for money, just want to help.
Man, Blair, that's pretty funny. Or just build a bigger list. Yeah, that's another option. Okay, Jeff, we're at time. Thank you so much for joining us and kind of putting together the sequence breakdown. And Sierra, thank you for being here in spirit and volunteering being a little vulnerable and volunteering your sequences. We really appreciate both you, Jeff, and also you, Sierra. And most of all, everyone who joined today, you 1,000 folks that registered, thank you. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for being in the chat and engaging with each other. We really hope this was valuable. Just a reminder, you're going to get the whole deck. You're going to get the recording. You can rewind, pause, work your way through the deck. There's actually like 8 or 9 slides that we didn't even get to. So there's actually a lot of content that if you want to watch this recording with the slide deck next to you, you could probably get a whole nother section of insights that we didn't cover. So I highly recommend it. Lots of thank yous in chat. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Jeff, again. It was a pleasure to have you on. Let's get you back on soon.
Thanks to everybody who showed up. Really appreciate it. Love the comments. Love the feedback. Yeah, it's awesome.